Welcome to the Learn to RV podcast, where we support, inspire, and empower you 1 mile at a time.
Hey guys, welcome to the Learn to RV podcast again this week. We're going to do something a little different this week, and we're going to talk about RV life, but in terms of more of a technical side. So what do you need to get started? So whether you're RV curious and you're just tuning in to find out how to RV, or maybe you've been doing it a while and you just want a checklist, this is the episode for you. Now, that said, you got 3 girls that are pretty technically minded, but I have notes just in case. So we're okay. We've been traveling for 13 years. We just started our 13th year this year. And we're going to talk about things you need for your RV as you get started or as you're traveling. So Jen, you've been on the road a few days. What is your top item that you would say you needed at the very beginning?
That's a good question. Top item. Well, actually, it's probably not that complicated. You need a sewer hose because if you can't dump those tanks, your days of camping are limited, or you're going
Yeah.
to be stuck using the bathhouse.
Right, that's true. What about you, Tasha? Would you say you have a favorite item?
Big fan of our surge protector. It has saved us at many a faulty electrical pedestal across the country.
That's a good one.
And it's no secret. My answer is going to be my RV roof because it keeps my rig about 8 degrees cooler than everybody else's. So again, this episode is sponsored by RV Roofing Solutions. So I want to kick this one off with talking about the types of RVs. So motorhome or, travel trailer, what is your fancy? So I know that we've all had different RVs over the years. Tasha, let's start with you because you're in the original RV that you bought for this adventure, right?
Yes, we are in a 2015 travel trailer. Now, it is not the one we wanted when we first started, but we've grown very fond of Flick. That's our RV's name. I name everything. So our RV's name is Flick. Because it is a reflection, so it's a flick. Aren't I clever? And then our dualie's name is Greta because she's great and she's red, so she's Greta. And our travel trailer, we originally were trying to get a fifth wheel. We wanted a fifth wheel, and we were actually trying to get a mid bunk where the bunkhouse is in the middle of the trailer. And for anybody who doesn't know what a bunkhouse is, I guess I should approach that too. A bunkhouse is kind of like having built-in bunk beds for sleeping and a room that has these built-in bunk beds. And so with us having both of our kids and them being teenagers, we knew that something like a pull-out couch wasn't going to necessarily work. Having like the kitchen table that you can throw the kitchen cushions on was not going to be sustainable for a teenager. No. So we knew we needed beds. We thought that was going to be the way to go. But every time we got a hold of one, the sale would fall through.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was devastating. Like signing the papers, sale falling through kind of business. So we ended up with our travel trailer, and he's been good to us. He's the first generation Grand Design. So, he's like very early. He's before he got any of the tricks and, all of the fancy things that people are running on the road with now. Like, I don't have an auto leveler. I don't have any of the fancy things. There are no solar panels up there. He didn't come with a solar panel, Any fancy things he gets, we've got to install ourselves. But he does have a bunkhouse. He does have a bunkhouse in the back, and he's pretty long for a travel trailer. What I've learned, he's like 37 and a half feet, and I've been told that that's actually quite long for a travel trailer.
Awesome.
Yep.
So,
as long as you can go.
Yeah. And why would you not want to go any longer, Jen? Do you know?
Because then it doesn't work with the tires and distance and the tongue weight, and there's a lot of things that would kind of go in together on that, I believe.
For
the
sure.
turn ratio,
well, and the size of the truck you need. I mean, the Martins do it well. They haul with a dually, despite the fact that they have, a travel trailer.
Smart
so
woman.
a lot of people wouldn't do that. A lot of people try to tow with a truck that's not enough truck for their rig.
Or just barely enough.
Yeah.
Right. So another one is schoolies. And so I've seen a few schoolies over the years. They're kind of fun. The reason we have never entertained a schoolie is one, there's no slides in most cases, unless you've put them in aftermarket. But the other side of it is a lot of RV parks don't let them in because they're not RVIA certified. Jen, you've had kind of quite a few different kinds of rigs though, right? So you started out in a travel trailer.
Yep.
But then you upgraded
To a motorhome.
and then you're
And
in
then
a.
we upgraded to a fifth wheel.
So tell me what that kind of looked like for you.
Yeah. So, when we started in our travel trailer, it was because it's what we could afford. I wanted a bed for everyone. I didn't want to have to make the table, like Tasha was saying, and it fit us. So we had the bunkhouse in the back, bedroom in the front, living in the middle, 37 feet, roughly thereabouts. And we towed it with our 1-ton, 13-passenger van. It was a nice little home and it did us well the 3 or so years that we had it, but we were just ready for more space because this is our life. This is our home. This is, everything else. And we're like, okay, it's time to upgrade. So we were trying to decide, like, I wasn't ever a fan of doing the motorhome. Let me just say it was really my husband that was pushing the motorhome because at the time we were kind of traveling every 2 weeks. And, he was like, I want an easier setup. I want an easier setup. Well, I don't believe for 1 minute that a motorhome is an easier setup, to be honest. You still have to get out. You still got to plug it in. You still got to do the hose. You still got to level. You can't be in the rig while you're leveling because you got to sit still and kids do not sit still. So that means they got to get out, and all these other things. The only nice thing about the motorhome is on travel days, while I was driving, my husband could go get snacks out for the kids. And if they needed to use the restroom, they could, which allowed me to drive for longer periods. That is about the only thing I enjoyed. I'm not sure there was much else about it I really liked. We lost living space. Kids were sleeping in the drop-down bed over the driver's area. So, like, after they go to bed, we couldn't even sit out in the living room and watch TV. And, it was different. And not only that, but right after we bought the motorhome, COVID hit and our travel style changed. And we found ourselves work camping and sitting still for more periods. And maybe it was a timing thing. It ended up not working very well for us. So finally, when we were able to save up enough to get our fifth wheel, it was a very welcome change. And this is by far our favorite. I wish we could have started with a fifth wheel, to be honest. We've got the best space in this, the best storage. We went ahead and ordered it with the K independent suspension. So I knew that we would have enough cargo capacity because every other unit we messed up on with that. So,
But that cost you more long term.
It did.
Yeah.
It does cost more long term, but it's also that peace of mind that you're not going to necessarily break an axle going down the roads. You have to do, like, if this is your life, you kind of have to do things a little bit different to ensure that you're going to be safe too on the road, and even at that, even with the extra cargo capacity, I think we're like right at our 19,000 pound limit. So, we are.
Yep. And they add up fast. So we're a little bit different. We started out in a 30-foot toy hauler with no slides, and that was a budget choice. We could pay cash for it, and we didn't really want a payment. And so that meant we could live off Frank's retirement. And the van we hauled with was a big 1-ton E350 van. And so that was how we traveled for the first 3 years with 6 kids. And so I tell people it was one toy hauler. There was no bedrooms. Like, my bedroom was a closet.
That's one of those where the toy hauler portion is like connected to the kitchen. There's no
It's
wall
everything.
dividing
There's
it,
no
right?
wall dividing. Yeah.
Just
And
one
so,
giant room.
right. And no slides. So all the beds were just kind of packed in like sardines. And so, but we did that way for 3 years. We made it work. And then the kids grew. And so we upgraded at a buy here, pay here a lot because we didn't really want to spend a million times, waiting for something to get built. We were too impatient and we didn't have a huge bankroll at that point to play with. So we made a decision, and that unit turned out to be a great unit. Did need work over the years, but what doesn't? And so last year, after 8.5 years riding that baby hard, she got to retire in Texas last week and called her down there. And it's not her last rodeo. The kids won't get rid of her. But we upgraded to a Newmar X-Air. And so that is a fifth wheel toy hauler, and Newmar only made them for for 2 years, from 2008 to 2010. And so it's got good bones and it's a great unit. It does have some drawbacks because it's a 2008 as well. But, I think that talking a little bit about, is it smart to buy the unit you think you could make work long term? If you had to do it over again, what would you buy now first?
I'd buy the fifth wheel first if I could. If I could have afforded it back then, that's what I think we would have started with.
Okay.
We would
What
have
about you,
started with a
Tasha?
toy hauler. Definitely a toy hauler, because the hard thing for us is that we had a growing teenage son. Rosewood is 5'3" and will always be 5'3" and will always be able to get into any small space, tall space, put them in a space. But David grew like a head and a half within, I don't know, a month and a half of us moving into our trailer. And so now he's like, he has to lay it's like a weird
Sideways?
yoga move for him
Scrunched?
in the bunk bed.
Well, and that's
Um,
ultimately why we upgraded was the boys grew. So, I mean, like
mhm.
that's, a lot of families I think do that. And, I think we'll downsize when the kids move out officially.
Mhm.
Just because I wouldn't haul this big of a rig because you are limited, with a 42
Yeah,
foot toy hauler for us, there's places we cannot go. And so there's places you can go that I can't, like some national parks
right.
because they weren't built for rigs this size.
Yeah.
So, those are super big bonuses out of it. All right. So let's move along because, time is of the essence in this podcast, but we don't want to miss the stuff. But at the same time, if we miss something, I totally want you guys to put questions in the comments because this could be a whole series that we do on a regular basis. And so that's
Sure.
something that we think is super important is making sure that you guys have the information you need to make qualified decisions. We're not experts, but we're trying.
The other thing I think in the blog that we post alongside this, we can probably go in slightly more detail as well and give
Oh,
them
for
some
sure.
links of things
Yeah.
to look at too.
Well, and that's the goal, right? Is to have a blog that goes with every podcast episode every week.
Mhm.
And then we'll have links to other blogs that we've written on those topics within there. So you'll
Yep.
have lots of stuff in the show notes that you can go and reference going forward. So before you hit the road, you need to know your rig, right? And so let's talk about understanding like the hookups and the things you need, the power cord, that sort of thing. What are things you absolutely need, guys? Tasha, why don't you start? You
You
said a surge
absolutely
protector.
need a surge protector.
But if you don't have a power cord, a surge protector is not gonna do you
Well, a
much good.
power cord, yes, and then a surge protector on the end of that sucker.
And I want to say these days, a lot of RVs are actually being sold without power cords. So make sure that your RV comes with one. It's a
Yeah,
cost cutting thing.
yeah,
Ah.
If it doesn't, make sure you buy one before you
right,
drive off the lot or go camping.
And make
right, for
sure that
sure.
you know if your RV is a 30 amp or a 50 amp. And when you're going to go camp somewhere, make sure that you know if the pedestal you're plugging into is a 30 amp or a 50 amp, because you will need to have the appropriate converter
Dog
according
bone.
to wherever you're at.
Right.
Yes.
And so one of the ways we could do that is maybe we can get a diagram of a 30 and a 50 amp so people can see what that looks like. And so
Mhm.
you can step down. One of the rules of thumb, if you have two ACs, you're probably a 50 amp. If you have
Yep.
three ACs, there's a good chance you can't run all three at the same time. For very long without blowing a fuse. But if you have one AC, chances are your rig is a 30 amp. And that's kind of a rule of thumb. It's not always true, but it's fairly
Yeah.
often true. Jen, what about you? What would you say is like something that you have to get on the road? You said a sewer hose. So
Sewer
what
hose.
else?
Well, you need a water hose too to get water into your RV. I would also say, along with that, is a good water filter. Even if it's just like a basic $30 one from Camco, you want to filter your water at least a little bit before it goes
Mhm.
into your pipes and everything.
Well, and did you hear the story about the lady that actually died from a campground water supply this past year? And so
No.
No.
there's only one company that actually filters out the microns low enough to protect you from bad water at a campground, and that's the Blue Tech one. And we're not sponsored by Blue Tech. I'm just telling you that's the only one that has the right microns for it. So that I'm aware of. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, we
expensive,
definitely
but it's worth it.
Yeah, we also filter water on the inside for
We do
drinking.
too.
We don't drink out
Mm-hmm.
of our faucets or anything. I've got a
Same.
burrow on our, water filter thing that sits on our counter. So I would say that's another necessity. Now, before we had the water filter thing on our counter, we just did the big 5-gallon blue jugs, which is definitely a little bit more budget friendly because it's not a huge upfront cost. You can refill those at Walmart,
And
natural
sometimes
grocers,
they
I mean,
have the
most
thing
grocery
that
stores.
can go on top of them that has like a
Yeah, you can buy
electric.
that on Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what about terms like GCWR? We throw that around in this industry pretty heavily.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
that's an important one to know. Do you guys know what GCWR is?
Gross combined weight rating, yeah.
Go
That's
to
the
the other
gross
gross combined weight rating. I'm like, there are mosquitoes coming for my head, Jen.
yes, that's the total truck and
Truck
trailer
and
weight.
rig.
Yes, and you
So,
don't want it to exceed what your truck is capable of doing.
and does weight matter?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Why does
Because
weight matter, Tasha?
if you are pulling more than what you can pull, you're gonna pull your truck in half. You're gonna pull that back axle right off of your truck. But
Well,
also
the
if
other
you sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the other reason that you need to be able to do it is because otherwise your truck's not going to stop.
Yeah.
And so there's that problem too. And
You're
so
gonna
there's
burn
so
out
many
your
people.
radiator. You're gonna do so much damage to your engine.
Well, and we know so many people that travel with not enough truck. And that's
Mhm.
just, a genuine term for, they're pulling with, Toyota Sienna and they're pulling this little travel trailer that's,
Well,
28 feet long. And, it's just not rated for that. And so you see them and the whole bottom is all bowed down and, it's
Mhm.
almost
Yes.
touching the ground. And there's trucks out there like that too, pulling with an F-150 and they're pulling this
Yeah.
giant 42-foot fifth wheel. And you
Yeah.
just think, what on earth? And so the biggest problem is with insurance, a lot of times if you're not pulling with the right tow capacity, if
You
you
are not
are in an
covered.
accident, you may not be covered. So
Yep.
Yeah, can I just say this much? If you have any doubt whether or not your truck is capable, ask us. Like if you have no one else to ask, go to our podcast group and ask us because don't trust the dealership salesman. The RV dealership
Mm-mm.
salesman,
because
he will tell
anything can
you
pull it.
every time. Yep,
Yeah.
he'll tell you every time. Oh yeah, you'll
Oh
be
yeah.
fine, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. No. Just don't do that. Come to the professionals, or we're not professionals, but we're experienced
Mm.
RVers, and we all have husbands who are experienced RVers who can
And we
also
have friends
calculate
that
numbers
have,
and friends,
yeah.
you know?
So, I
Because
mean,
that is a distinguishable mention really quickly is that I think one of the things that Matt and I thought when we walked into the first RV lot that we did was we assumed that every salesperson there had at least been behind the wheel of a vehicle pulling an RV, and that is not the
No.
case. So they are speaking from whatever information a lot of times they have managed to memorize. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I can't remember what I ate for breakfast that morning. So,
They're speaking from whatever information is going to make the sale,
yes.
not
correct.
Yep.
necessarily information they memorize.
Yes.
Well, and
So,
so, I like to tell people at this point, it's not just about us. You can be smart about it, but how do you know? How do you calculate safely what you can tow? The best way to do is compare your manufacturer ratings, check your tow
mhm,
vehicle limits, balance the load, and then monitor your tire pressure. But the way you can do that is you can take it to a CAT scale and do that if you need to. Like that is the fastest and quickest way to do it. If you're at an RV rally, there's a lot of companies that will come out and weigh your rig there, and they're
yep.
more accurate because they'll measure by the wheel. They'll also check the height clearance on your rig. So rallies are a great place to be able to get that information too. But I think that getting safe about it, there's also another website that we'll drop in the show notes that I found today. I haven't tried it yet, so until I tell you try it, I don't want to share what it is. And so I'll put our information in there as well and check that. But you want to weigh your RV fully loaded, essentially, to
Mhm.
find out what your GVWR is. So your gross combined vehicle weight ratio is you. You want to be sitting in it with all the
Yep.
passengers because they count too when you're hauling. And
Yep.
so it's important to know that. And this is actually something that was near and dear to Doug's heart when he started Learn to RV. And so it might be good to even get him on a podcast that just talks about weight ratings at some
That'd be
point in the
great.
near future. And so drop those weight comments into the chat because it's an important topic.
One, if I can really quickly, one of the things that we learned because we were looking at how can we improve our axles? How can we go up from our leaf springs? What can we do to improve our weight rating or what our capacity for towing is on our trailer, on our truck? And what we learned was that sticker that's on your is what your insurance is going to go by. So if you make improvements to your trailer after market and you're towing more than what that sticker shows you should be towing, your insurance may say this accident you got in was because you were towing more than what you should have been based on what your
Yep.
market was at. So if you are a person like us who's interested in getting the souped up axles or all of the stuff that means that you have this great towing capacity and you can actually live with the cast iron skillet in your kitchen that I cannot live with in my kitchen right now. That's something that you might consider talking to the manufacturer and get that built into the rig at purchase.
Or you have to have it reweighed, and
Yes.
then they have to put a new certification sticker on
Yep.
it. So it
Which
can be done
costs-
aftermarket. Yes, it costs a lot
Yeah.
of money. You're right. RV Roofing Solutions is a nationwide RV roofing company with mobile installers.
One of the biggest factors and benefits of the RV Roofing Solutions system is our product is a low VOC, which is helpful for those who are sensitive to chemicals. It's better for the environment, and it actually works better for the RV roofing industry.
It's a great place to find a quality product.
www.rvroofingsolutions.com.
So, Jen, I want to do a nod to your blog, basically. You just recently wrote a blog. And, I was asked my second year on the road if a black tank was a paint color. And so do you want to talk a bit about gray and black tanks? Because that's an important topic.
It is.
Don't drink while we're...
I know. I always take a drink at the wrong times. I take a drink and then something gets said and I almost spit my water across the room.
So you got in most RVs, you're going to have two tanks, a black tank and a gray tank. In some RVs, you will also have a third tank, which is oftentimes called the galley tank, which is essentially just another version of the gray tank. Usually the galley tank is connected to just your kitchen sink. So it will have more of the food oils, greases, food particles in it and things like that. And then your gray tank would be connected to like your shower, your laundry, your bathroom sink, so it'd be more of your soapy waters. And then your black tank is what's connected to your toilet. So it's going to be your sewage, And so they're important. It's important to know the size of your tanks. I can't emphasize that enough, especially when you do get around to flushing your tanks, cleaning your tanks, things like that. The size of your tank really matters. If you ever need to get yourself a water tote because you don't have full hookups and you want to use that to dump remotely or whatever, you need to know and have a good idea of what your tanks are compared to that and what you're comfortable doing. Mostly, I can't emphasize this enough in my blog today, but water is your friend in the black tank. You have to have water in that black tank. Don't dump your tank and just start fresh. Add water to it right away. One of the first things we'll do is we'll come inside and dump like 3 or 4 gallons down into our black tank with our treatment just to get water in there and get it going. If you don't, do you know what happens, Tasha, if you don't add water to your black tank?
Oh, I have heard horror stories. We have not had it happen to us. Let me knock on this wood table that I am sitting at. I have heard all sorts of stories about poop pyramids and just not great things. We've had instances where David has gone out to start the emptying of the black tank and he has forgotten to close the black tank. And the lectures that have happened in our camper when that happened. No, it's a bunch of stuff you don't want. You don't want it. Close it, fill it with water.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of people that don't know that. So they leave their both tanks open, and then all of a sudden they have a backup, and ultimately it's the dreaded poop pyramid. There are ways you can combat it, but mostly it's just water. There are tank flushing services. There's people out there that do it privately. There's companies like Clean Tank and Tank Rangers. There's different companies out there. Clean Tank's been out there the longest as a community. They have actually a recipe that you can download online and make yourself for your tank. And there's lots of tank flushing stuff. And I'm sure we probably all use a different one, honestly, because there's so many,
It
And
really
so,
is.
again, it just falls under what works for you guys.
Yep.
But
Doesn't
I mean,
matter what you use as long as you use something.
yep. And
Yes.
so the other thing I wanted to bring up was tire pressure monitoring systems. So
Yes.
TPMS is something that I think is very important. And it's, things like, I don't know, things like if your tire's going low because of something, your TPMS system goes off. There's situations where, someone has a tow vehicle behind their motorhome and that has the TPMS system too. And so there's stories about how the car catches fire in the back, but it catches it early enough so that you can pull over and deal with the problem before you do have a full-blown incident and your rig is on fire. So,
Yes.
which leads me
Yeah.
to the next one. How many of you guys have a fire suppression system?
I do not have
You
it.
keep
I want it
you keep
so
talking
bad.
about it, and I feel like I need it, but I feel like we can't afford it right now.
Yeah,
I
so
want
I
it
mean,
so bad. I've sat through about 4 of the same seminar, like,
there's only one.
conference, but it's always the same conference thing. I just sit in there so that I can hear and remind myself of how valuable it would have been to get it on my rig.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten it yet, but I keep sitting through the same seminar lecture about it. I want it really badly.
So it's less expensive if you own a travel trailer or a fifth wheel.
Mhm.
Because you don't have the engine compartment.
Right.
And so if you have a refrigerator that is, a residential refrigerator like we do, that
Yep.
can also reduce the cost of it. But
Really? Okay.
yes. So the fire suppression system we had installed last year, and we've had 4 friends that have lost their rigs to fires over the last 12 years. And so we have always wanted one. And so we had one installed last year, actually a year ago this week at the Grand Design Rally. And I can't tell you how great it is to just know we have it as we're driving down the road.
Okay.
The thing is, a fire suppression system, there's only one company really out there that makes them and makes them well for RVs. It's called Protang. And I'm friends with the owners, and they're just a super company. And again, they're not paying me to say this. It's really
Yeah.
just something I bought and used at full price. So the reality is, though, it goes out in 7 seconds. 7 seconds, and the fire is
Yep.
out.
Now, how many places in your RV is that installed? Like, do you have one in each room and the battery bay, or how?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
wherever there's a hot spot, and so they don't let you install it. That's part of the cost issue, is because they come
Okay.
out and they assess your rig. And so you have to be where they are and have that installed at the time.
So they're
But
not nationwide like RV roofing
they
solutions there.
actually are, because they own a plane and the owner will fly in and he will install
Oh,
your system for you. So,
okay.
yes. Yeah. So, I mean, super nice people. And if you tell Nicole I sent you, then, she might, give you something. So at
Maybe
least,
we can work out a dual deal in Tampa, Tasha,
Right?
if you
2
you
of
guys
us
cut
in
us a
one
deal if we
spot.
both do it. Yes.
yep. But it is a great system. And I mean, I'm not just saying that. It's something that we wanted to do for a long time. I do think it is something you should have all the
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to things we don't necessarily need. How many of you guys like shopping? I love going shopping. So
TJ Maxx is my weakness.
So
Marshalls.
I love going shopping so much that I went shopping at the last rally and had a table delivered by an Amish guy today, and he did not come. He came in a truck. Somebody brought him.
Oh.
And so I was like, maybe it's coming by horse and buggy. I don't know. But must-haves are things that we want. So water pressure regulator is something you probably should
Oh,
have.
that's a
Mhm.
necessity. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And leveling blocks, you
Yes.
might want those.
Necessity.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so, what else do you think is a necessity? Because this one's just kind of fun. This one's just a
I
really nice
I've
one.
got one, a necessity, and that is a backup camera on your rig, especially if you're going to have a 40-foot fifth wheel. You need a camera. at least for me, well, first of all, I enjoy it while I drive because then I can see who's behind me. I can see if someone's getting ready to pass, so my visibility is so much better. What I can see going on around me is so much better with my cameras. But um, I don't know about the rest of you, but I can't necessarily trust my husband not to back me up into something. So I like to be able to see what I'm doing and trust that, I've got the clearance or whatever else. And so I live by my cameras.
Well, and see, we may need one. My 2 oldest
Yeah.
boys moved out, so that's gonna be a different thing, and so they
Mhm.
they direct Frank in with military signals, and
Yeah.
I'm not good at those, and so they're well trained and they moved out. So now it's just 3 kids and me, and I used to be the
Yeah.
chase vehicle, so I was his backup camera in that I would be his, I don't know what
Right.
you'd call it, chase vehicle, and so I would,
Yeah.
make sure that nothing came between us, that sort of thing. So that extra car was helpful in that way, but it never occurred to me that it was something that we were gonna, when we changed it, it was gonna be something we might need. So that's a great tip, actually.
Yeah.
Tasha, what about you? Do you have anything else that you think that you should have that
Yes, I mentioned it on a previous episode. The hub saver. Go find it, buy it, put it on all the tires, every tire, put it on everything. Put it
Yep.
on your fingers. Get the hub savers. Get
All right.
your hub savers.
So let's talk about fun gear. What things do you have that you think is like not a must have, but it's a must have for you? So what would you say your top ones are?
So
Pick 3.
this one is new to us this year, and I love having it. And that is we got the shades that go on our awnings. So it
Ooh.
expands our outdoor space, gives us a little privacy, extra shade, when that afternoon sun's hitting, things like that. Like keeps our RV cooler on the hot days. I love it. It's definitely not a necessity, but it is a favorite of mine. Another one, we just got it, is our Wacko air silencer. Not a necessity, but it is a really nice to have. We can only put it in our bedroom, but I am getting better sleep already because the jet engine is not taking off in the middle of the night anymore. And
Is
number
it keeping your
3,
room cooler? Because it's supposed to do
yeah,
that
it's
too.
keeping our room cool. So it's doing this, and it's improved the air conditioner going to our kids' room too. So our
Yep.
room is ducted to the mid bedroom, and their room is always notoriously hot, but it's actually improved the airflow to
Yep.
their room as
Yep.
well. So it's been big. And then number 3, we haven't installed it yet, but I am super excited about it because we had it in our motorhome, and that is a Nautilus shower door. Again, not a necessity, but here's the benefit. You lose weight because I can get rid of my triple glass door that probably weighs 75 pounds. It's
Nice.
easier to clean, and it just looks so nice. And so it is here, it's sitting in our shower, and we get to install it the next day that my husband has off of work camping. So
Nice.
those are my top 3 things.
What about you, Tasha? Do you have 3 top things that you would add to that?
I would say I'm a big fan of our Instapot because it can get pretty toasty in our trailer. Um, and when I don't want to use the stove or the oven, and it's like just a little bit too hot for comfort to be outside grilling, we can throw something in the Instapot and still have a nice dinner. That has made some pretty good meals for us. We cannot survive without coffee. I'm like a coffee addict, and I have these protein shakes that I have, and mix them with my coffee every morning. And then I mix them with like skinny mix syrups. And so I guess my number 2 and my number 3 is my coffee maker and my skinny mix syrups. Because if mama doesn't have coffee and mama doesn't have syrup, mama's not very happy all day. Um, I'm constantly like, there's a TJ Maxx and I'm like, oh, we've got to pull over because I got to go see what syrups they've got. Because it's like I would order them, I would have them sent to me. But sometimes we're not in one place long enough for them to get to me from the
Right, for
company.
sure.
But I can find them sometimes like at a TJ Maxx or a Marshall's or a Home Goods or whatever. So when I see one of those, I'm like, oh, I got to go in and look. And every time I'm like, I'm going to go over to Marshall's. The whole family, there's just like an audible groan because they know I'm coming back with a full bag of syrup bottles. I'm like, it's 0 sugar. It's okay. We're okay. They're like, but that's not 0 pounds. It's not 0 weight. But those are my two things. Like, I feel fancy. I'm not going to the coffee shop. That's something that, like, we do try when we do coffee out, we do local. We try to hit up local coffee shops in the area, but I try to keep that cost down by doing it in-house at the RV, and so that's my little splurge for myself.
Sure. So next one is going to be comfort gear.
Well,
So
what's your 3 favorite items, Jennifer?
oh gosh, I don't know. I
Right?
have so many. So I mean, my water filtration system is probably one. And I don't think that's like I have a sink one where it's actually an osmosis system under the counter. And so yes, I gave up space under there, but it was worth it for me not to have to carry, some kind of exterior water filter. I would say my oxygenic shower head because I get better pressure off of that.
Nice.
Yes.
And then the third one I would do is I have a friend that makes it's J Wright Concepts, but he has these little like hose grips and they're just ergonomic. And when I go to release it, it doesn't spray me in the face because it's got a pressure relief valve on it. And so for
Nice.
me, that's awesome. And it's like, they're not horribly expensive. They're like $45. So like they're just a nicety to have. But comfort gear, my mattress, that was not a deal breaker for. And so like I like to talk about comfort gear because as a full-time RVer or even as just a weekender, a terrible night's sleep on a camping mattress is still a terrible night's sleep on a camping mattress.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Tasha, what would you say is your number one like favorite like extra other than your coffee?
Other than my coffee and syrup. This isn't like something that's like making me comfortable, but it's something that makes me comfortable inside. It soothes my soul. I've got a bag of books. You have to understand, like when we got rid of the house, I had 8 bookshelves that were like
Oh,
I had like 3,000
full,
books when we launched.
and it was like each shelf had a row with a row on top of it, and there was a row in front and a row behind. So it was like each shelf had 4 rows of books, and I sold most of them. Some
Oh.
of them that were like collector's items, I put in storage because it would have broken my heart. I couldn't do it. But I do keep a bag. And when I say a bag, I'm saying like a Marshall shopping bag. Like this is not a small tote bag. This is like a bag.
About 50 pounds worth.
Yes.
Well, and I mean that's a great episode right there. We should talk about how to do books on the road.
Yes.
And so there's lots of ways to do that. But
Yep.
what about you, Jen? What's your favorite extra item?
Well, I would say mattress too, but to be different, I'm actually going to go with my combination washer dryer because being able to do laundry inside my RV with 4 kids whenever I want is so much better than going and sitting at a laundromat for hours and hours on end.
Would agree with that. I was team no washer and dryer for the first 3 years. And so
Yeah.
once we had it, it changed that equation for me. So if you were, let's see, your RV isn't just your vehicle, it's your house on wheels when you're traveling on the weekends. And so, or if you're full time, it's more than that. So it's important to have those creature comforts right there in front of you. Okay. What about clutter? How do you handle like getting rid of stuff on the road? Because I mean, for us, it's, it's a constant flux and a battle of something in, something out. I just brought in a
Yeah.
little table and I'm going to move let's see if I kill everything by doing this. So right over here behind, there's my ferret. Now, I travel with a ferret, but I bought this table off this guy from his Amish, like he made this for me. And so it's a table. It's tiny.
That's
Can you see
cute.
it?
I love those
Yes.
tables.
So on this side, it pops up like this,
Yeah.
and then it can be much bigger.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So it's super perfect for the RV, and it's super nice because it's, all handcrafted and handmade. So this is definitely like a creature comfort in my world. Our items have to serve more than one purpose. So, here's my 15-pound table. So now I have to decide what's 15 pounds around here that has to go out. And so, how do you handle that? So t-shirts, we're ordering t-shirts for Learn to RV. That means I have to go through all my shirts, and I have shirts for rallies. and I have
Yeah.
shirts. So, I mean, my dynamic's pretty different.
Your wardrobe's going to change, though. You're going to start wearing podcast shirts and RV Roofing Solution shirts, so you're a walking advertisement at all times, right?
But how do you guys handle that? Because, I mean, I know how we did it when we first hit the road, and then
Yeah.
that's a great tip, but I just would be curious how you guys do that.
So we do maintain something in, something out, but it's hard. The kids are forever buying something, and then I forget to follow up with the what are you getting rid of. So we have a place for everything, and everything has to have a place. Now, when we're sitting somewhere for 5 months at a time, everything is never in its place until about 2 days before we go to travel, and then we're all scurrying to get everything back in its place. But, with the kids, they have bins that are theirs. And if it fits in the bin, then they're allowed to keep it at this point. We are right at slightly under our GVWR. So we know we have a little bit of wiggle room. Plus, we're getting rid of a 75-pound shower door. So we're going to gain a little bit of space. But, that's kind of how we manage with the kids. Because with the kids, it's harder. They're like, I got to have this teeny tiny little thing. And it's like, well, that doesn't really weigh anything, but
Right.
100 teeny tiny little things add up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What about you, Tasha? How do you manage that something in, something out rule? Do you have a rule like that?
No.
So what we do typically is it becomes a disaster, and then we go, wait a minute, we got to get this mess under control. And then everybody reassesses what they've got going on, and we all
Yep.
gather our stuff together that we're like, I can live without this. And then we go make a donation somewhere to Goodwill or to, a church
A
that's
local
doing a
place.
drive or wherever we can find.
I love
You
doing
know.
local women's shelters,
Yes.
ladies that are battered women. And so
Yeah.
you can find those in your local community as you're traveling, even if you're just finding something, it doesn't always have to be Goodwill. It can be something else. So
Yes.
it's not too hard to find. So find something you believe in, see if they have a thrift shop. There's even pet rescues
Yes.
out there that have their own thrift shops. And so
Yeah.
it's, put the money wherever you want to put it. But I have 3 bags actually sitting over there ready to go once the truck gets back this week.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The
So
stop
there's my 15
before-
pounds. I don't have
See?
It's already done for you.
You were
The stop
thinking ahead.
before Indiana, we made a huge donation. So, I mean, it's about every 2 to 3 stops we kind of go, is there anything that we want to get rid of? That's about what it averages out to. The
Yeah.
kids' room is it's a hot mess. It's a hot mess. But I've got a almost 21-year-old in there, and I've got an almost 18-year-old in there, and they're like vying for space, So,
Right.
um,
Well, and I had
don't
2
know.
boys just recently move out, so there's that. So a lot of that
And they
stuff
took a
moved
bunch of
out.
stuff with them. So
Yeah, they
you're
actually
really doing good.
Yeah.
we actually carry 4 desktops up until last week, and so I have kids that game, so those were issues. But I want to give you some advice as far as, maybe not you two, but when we hit the road, we had a 30, 60, 90, and 180-day rule. So if you're about to go full time, this is a great way to do it. You go to Walmart or Staples or wherever, and you buy a handful of stickers, and they have to be 4 different colors. And and they have to be removable. You don't want the kind that are going to stick to it forever. But you put a sticker on it, or you can if it's clothing and you're hanging it up, you can turn the hanger around backwards. And then you flip it around when you use it the first time. And so if at 30 days, you're not sure if you're going to use it again and you haven't used it yet, you pull a 1-section weeding out. So you basically pull out some of that stuff. At 60 days, if you still haven't used it, you check again. At 90 days, if you still haven't used it, you do it again. And at 6 months, if you still haven't used it, you do it again. And that's when I got rid of my Instapot. So we didn't use our Instapot, so it was worth,
Oh my
getting rid of that
goodness.
space. Yeah. And so
We
for
use
us,
ours
it
like
wasn't
once
worth
or
it.
twice a week.
Right.
Easily 2 or 3 times. Yeah.
And so that's just something that's different for every family out there. Now my kitchen craft stainless steel cookware, that's here. And so we decided what was worth it for us. And so I can turn off my kitchen craft. Like if I'm cooking vegetables, I can start them up for like 4 minutes on the stovetop, shut it off. Rice is like 8 minutes and I shut it off and it sits there for 45 minutes and it's fully cooked by the time it's done. Is kitchen craft expensive? Percent. But at the same time, it's also stupid heavy. So I had to decide kitchen craft or Instapot. And so, yeah, you know
Yeah.
what we chose. So the last thing I want to touch on is I think that getting help and finding community is kind of a critical aspect to being on the road, whether you're part-time, full-time, just dreaming about it. And I'd like to take just a few minutes and talk about why. So Jen, do you want to start that one? Why do you think it's important to
Yeah,
have community on the road?
because we're humans and humans are made to socialize, to put it simply. And if you're not socializing, then you're usually not as happy.
We're
If
gonna get a
you're
cameo.
planning, if you're, there's a cute kitty. If you're planning to do this full time, you need to build the same kind of community on the road that you had in your hometown. So if you went to a mom's group, if you went to preschool and interacted with all the moms there, or if you went to a seniors club or a fitness club, or you went and played pickleball at the local country club or golf or whatever, and you had your group of friends that you did things with, you got to have that same set of community on the road too. It's going to look different. Don't let me fool you. It will look different, but you need it just for longevity. Otherwise, you will get lonely and depressed and miserable, and you'll just find yourself wanting to go back to sticks and bricks probably.
So what about you? What do you think is important about that?
I would agree with all of that. I think I'm a huge walking billboard for maintain your mental health. You know, I'm a huge supporter of just people taking care of themselves, and I believe that part of taking care of yourself is taking care of relationships with others. And you know, I think that there are things that you can do alone, but I don't think that everything is sustainable in a silo. And so I think that it's really important to find your tribe, to get settled in. If you're out there doing it alone, then you're not going to find resources. You're not going to learn. You know, if I was out here doing it by myself, if Matt and I were out here just rambling around, we would have turned around and gone back to Arkansas already because we would not have made it. It's because of the connections that we've made on the road. It's because of the amazing people who have invested in us and taken time to sit down and speak with us and pour into us and say, hey, you know, let me teach you, let me tell you what we've learned out here, that we've been able to learn what we need to learn to make this sustainable for as long as it has been so far and hopefully for much longer. So it's kind of like the way that, not to get all teachery on you, but it's like long ago when tribes told stories to teach lessons. I mean, it kind of is, you know, like you got to find your tribe so you can share the stories and teach lessons to one another and pass along
Yeah.
you know, the good stuff. So
Agreed. And, you know, things like RV forums, Facebook groups, YouTube channels, podcasts. I mean, you know, those are all ways encouraging new RVers. I mean, like if you're an RVer and you've been doing this a while, you know, encourage your fellow RVers as you're out there.
Yeah.
Community is the best gear that you ever get back, honestly.
yeah.
And so, you know, we want you to stay connected and support your journey. So let's keep that conversation rolling. So we've shared some of our favorite RV basics, but there's always more to explore. Do you have a story that you'd love to tell us on the podcast? We'd love to hear it. An area where you're curious about. We'd be willing to, you know, deep dive into that topic. Drop us a message, leave us a comment, or tag us on social because we're building this podcast with you and for
Yes.
you. You know, whether it's road schooling tips or learning how to dump your black tank, we're here for all of it. And don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell on the Learn to RV YouTube channel so you can watch us each week as we dive deeper into so many topics. They're all coming your way. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Be sure to join this crazy campfire crew at the Learn to RV podcast again next week. Like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.